My name's Jack Latham. I'm 39 years old, and I've spent most of my life fixing other people's mistakes. For the past 16 years, I worked at Kincaid AgTech, a fertilizer and machinery supplier, about 15 miles outside of Lock Creek, Arkansas. You've probably never heard of Lock Creek. That's fine. Most people haven't. It's one of those towns where everybody knows everybody, and if they don't, they know somebody who does. We've got 2 diners, one bar that doubles as a church on Sundays, and a hardware store that still rings you up on a register older than me. I used to be proud of working at Kincaid. I started in the shipping bay, loading pallets, checking inventory against scribbled invoices, driving the busted old forklift in winter, while my fingers froze inside thin cotton gloves. Worked my way up to site supervisor didn't go to college, but I learned fast. Learned how to read people even faster. That skill kept me alive longer than most at that place. It also blinded me to what was coming. I'll get to the betrayal, the family part. But first, you have to understand how deep the roots went. My cousin Wade, he's the reason I got hired in the first place. Back then, Wade had just married into the Kincaid family. His wife, Laurel, was the daughter of the founder. Real piece of work, that one. Always dressed like she was running for local office. Smile never quite reached her eyes, but Wade was smitten, and she wanted him to have a respectable job. So I got pulled in as the favor. For years I thought Wade and I were a team. We'd grown up splitting firewood and baling hay for Uncle Rick. So I figured blood counted for something. I covered for his mistakes, handled the books when he forgot to submit reports, kept the crew in line when his temper flared. I made him look competent. I thought that meant something. It didn't. 3 months before everything fell apart, I noticed changes at work. New protocols, increased shipping delays, vendors asking for confirmations twice. Then Wade stopped returning my calls after 5 p.m. He said he was overloaded with regional operations. Funny how his overload always seemed to coincide with his weekly golf games, or those off-site meetings that only he attended. The real warning came when I caught a guy named Travis, one of the newer hires, photographing invoices with his phone in the back office. "What are you doing?" I asked him. He froze like a possum caught in the headlight. "Wade said I could archive these," he muttered, tucking his phone into his back pocket. "You archive with the scanner, not your camera," I said, looking him in the eye. "You know that," he nodded, just doing what I was told. I didn't press it. I just made a note. Then I went into the supply logs and started pulling the last 6 months of shipments. That's when I found the gaps. Shipments marked delivered that never arrived. Equipment maintenance requests signed off by Wade, but never performed. And accounts, new ones opened under my eye. I stared at the screen, blinking, like maybe I was imagining it. But there it was, a whole order of tractor parts shipped to a distributor in Missouri, approved and billed under my name. I printed everything out and took it home. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table, just me and a bottle of Old Crow, going over the papers like they were written in some language I'd never learned. I wasn't mad, not yet. I was embarrassed, humiliated, because I'd vouched for Wade, over and over, to my crew, to the Kincaids, to my... I decided to wait. Gather more. Over the next 2 weeks, I traced over a dozen fraudulent transactions, always routed through shell accounts, always approved by Wade, but somehow tied to me in just enough of a way to raise suspicion. I found out Travis was Wade's wife's nephew. Kid had no resume, no experience, but suddenly he was in charge of data entry. Then came the knife. One morning, I showed up to work and my badge wouldn't scan. Security guard said to wait. 10 minutes later, HR called me in, said there'd been a report of misconduct, misuse of company funds, forgery. They were suspending me pending investigation. Wade wasn't even in the room. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I asked one question. Who filed the report? They wouldn't say. Said it was confidential. I walked out of that office with my jaw tight and my chest hollow. When I got home, I found out my sister Leah had just co-signed on a new lease with Wade's name listed on the emergency contact form. That's when the bottom dropped out. My sister, my only living relative. She'd been renting a little two-bedroom in Springdale after her divorce, always short on money. Always calling me when the transmission blew or the fridge died. I helped her every time. No questions asked. Now she was living in a new place, with furniture she couldn't afford and appliances still wrapped in plastic. I called. "Jack," she answered, bright and casual like nothing had happened. "I need to ask you something," I said. "Sure. You co-signed a lease in Springdale." Silence. "Did Wade help you with that?" More silence. "Laurel said it'd be easier if Wade handled the paperwork," she finally said. "They were doing me a favor. You didn't think to mention this favor to me. I didn't think you'd care," she said. "You've been distant." Distant. I wanted to lie. That night, I put everything on the table. Every printout. Every forged document. Every time card falsified under my name. I built a timeline complete with photos of deliveries that never arrived. Screenshots of email headers and account IDs linked to Missouri shipment. Then I got to work. Not to fix anything. To burn it all down. The first thing I did was call Rick Munson. He ran a logistics outfit 2 towns over, and owed me a favor from back when his son wrecked our delivery truck, and I talked the company out of pressing charges. Rick wasn't the kind of man who liked loose ends. "I need to know where Wade's been sending freight that doesn't exist," I told him. Rick didn't ask questions. 2 days later, I had 6 addresses. 3 in Missouri, 2 in northern Louisiana, 1 in Oklahoma, all under fake names tied to LLCs formed in the past 8 months, all with shipment signatures from Wade or Travis. I cross-referenced everything with our internal logs, matched serial numbers, invoice tags, even pallet codes. Wade had been rerouting equipment, new, expensive machinery, and selling it off under the table, using my login to sign off on every single one. Probably planned to pin the whole operation on me, then offer Laurel a clean narrative to keep their family name untarnished. I didn't have proof of the money trail, yet, but I had something better. Time. Being suspended gave me freedom. I wasn't expected at work. I didn't have to explain where I was or who I was talking to, so I drove, first to Missouri, then Louisiana. I took photos, matched VINs on equipment, spoke to 3 property managers pretending to be a rep checking on delayed shipments. They were all cash-only leases, no names on site, but I took photos of the trucks. One of them still had a Kincaid Ag Tech inventory tag on the tailgate. The moment I saw it, I felt it. That cold certainty in the gut that tells you you're not crazy, that you were right to be suspicious. I sent copies of everything to a burner email account I'd set up, 2 backups, one on a flash drive, one uploaded to cloud storage under a fake name. I wasn't just covering myself, I was building a wall of evidence Wade couldn't get around. Back home, I called Leah. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked. She sighed into the phone like I was the one causing trouble. "You wouldn't understand. Try me. I needed a break, a reset." Laurel offered help. Wade said he'd get me on the payroll part-time so I could save up and get back on my feet. "You're already on your feet, Leah. That rent's twice what you were paying. You think they did that out of kindness?" She was quiet. "I'm being set up," I said flatly, "and you handed them the last piece they needed. Family credibility." "I didn't know," she whispered. "I believe you, but that doesn't mean you're not part of it now." She hung up on me. 3 days later, I walked into the county courthouse and filed a whistleblower report. The clerk behind the glass didn't even blink. She just slid the form back and said, "You might want to talk to Deputy Farrow about this." Farrow had known me since I was 12, coached me in Little League. He listened carefully, asked only 2 questions. "You got all this on paper?" "Yes." "Anyone else see it yet?" "Not yet. Don't show anyone. Not even your lawyer. Not until I talk to the DA." I left the station with my heart pounding like I'd just robbed a bank. That night, I got a call from Wade. "You busy?" "Depends," I said, keeping my voice even. "I heard you've been asking questions, driving around. People notice things, Jack. People should." Silence. Then he said, "I'd hate for this to get messy." "Then maybe you should have thought about that before you signed my name on 12 fake invoices." "Easy," he said. "Let's talk. Just you and me." Sure, I said. Tomorrow, meet me at the lot behind the mill, noon. I didn't plan to show up, but I did make a call, told Farrow exactly where Wade would be and what he might be carrying. Then I sat on my porch the next day with a cup of coffee and waited. At 12:26 p.m., Farrow called. We got him. What was he doing? Burning papers in a metal drum, had a USB drive in his truck, and a binder full of invoices. Most of them match your documents. I closed my eyes. Did he talk? He's talking now. That night, Laurel called. First time in years she'd ever dialed my number directly. This doesn't have to end badly, she said. I didn't answer. You'll hurt the whole company, Jack. The employees. I warned you, I said. You picked him. You backed him. This could have stayed internal. He tried to ruin me. She paused. What do you want? I didn't say money. I didn't say justice. I want my name back. Next morning, a public statement went out. Kincaid AgTech accepted Wade's resignation. They cited misconduct and breach of internal protocol. They promised an internal audit and transparency moving forward. No mention of me, so I called the paper myself. Gave them the documents, the statement, the burner account, everything. They ran a front-page story. Local company rocked by embezzlement scheme. Underneath the fold, suspended whistleblower cleared of wrongdoing. My picture wasn't in it. I asked them not to run one, but my name was, and that was enough. Later that week, I got a certified letter from the company. Official reinstatement offer, apology from the board, retroactive pay for the time I was gone. I didn't open it. I already had a new job lined up. Smaller outfit, honest work, people who didn't lie to my face over barbecue and call it networking. As for Leah, she left the new apartment, moved back into her old place, sent me a long message I haven't answered yet. Maybe one day, maybe not. Sometimes closure isn't a conversation, sometimes it's a door that stays shut. But me, I started sleeping again. Deep, clean sleep that doesn't claw at your insides. I even bought a new mattress, and one night, standing on the back porch, I poured myself a drink, and stared out at the soybean fields. A storm was rolling in. I could smell it. For once I wasn't waiting for anything to fall apart. I'd already survived the collapse. Now I was just rebuilding. About a month after everything broke open, I got a call from someone I hadn't expected. Eli Kincaid himself, founder of the company. Retired 5 years ago. His voice was thin, but steady. You got time to talk? He asked. Depends on what about, Wade. I let the silence hang for a second longer than I needed to. Sure, I said. Say what you need to say. I trusted him, Eli said. I brought him in because I thought marrying into the family would keep him honest. Didn't work out that way. No, it didn't. He paused, then added, I read the file, the one you gave the paper. You didn't have to go public. Yes, I did. Another pause. He shamed my name. No, I corrected him. He tried to bury mine. Eli didn't argue, just let out a low breath. The kind old men give when they've got more regrets than time left. If I'd still been running things. But you weren't, I cut in. And you didn't check on who was. He cleared his throat. I've got a lawyer handling some cleanup. Expect a call, might be a settlement offer. I'm not suing. That's your choice. He hung up without saying goodbye. 2 days later, I got a package, no return address, just a yellow envelope stuffed into my mailbox. Inside was a handwritten note and a cashier's check for $4. The note said, not enough, but it's a start. EK. I didn't cash it. I donated it, anonymously to the Lark Creek Technical School, earmarked for scholarships in agricultural training. Let someone else get a fresh start off money made dirty. Farrow called again a week later, said the DA decided not to press charges for now. Why? I asked. Too much mess. Too close to the Kincaid family name. They wanted quiet. So he walks. For now, but keep that file safe, Jack. I already had. That burner account. I updated it, organized it, added backups, stored it on a secure drive with a second copy buried inside an old battery housing in my garage. I didn't plan to use it, but I'd learned the value of keeping things close. Meanwhile, I started at the new place, Greenridge Supplies. Smaller company, family run, but in the right way. They didn't care about optics, just results. I started in operations, but after a week the owner asked me to run logistics. "You've got eyes like someone who's already lived through hell," he said. "More like rural purgatory," I replied. He laughed. "Then you'll fit right in." The work felt clean, simple, real. Nobody used my name without asking. I started talking to a woman named Carla who managed procurement. Divorced, 1 kid, wore her hair pulled back, and always had grease under her nails. She reminded me that honesty wasn't supposed to be rare. After a month, she asked me what I was running from. "I'm not," I said. "I'm walking away." "Same difference," she said. But she smiled when she said it. Sometimes I caught myself checking the mailbox for more anonymous notes. Nothing came. Wade disappeared from the area, moved somewhere west, probably trying to start over like I had, minus the clean conscience. Lola was still on the board at Kincaid, but her name stopped appearing in local news. Rumor was she was being pushed out by new investors. Couldn't happen to a nicer person. One Saturday morning, I saw Leah again. She showed up at my door with a pie from the diner, and 2 coffees. "I was wrong," she said. I didn't answer, just let her hand me one of the cups. We sat on the porch for an hour without talking about it, just watched the wind comb through the soy fields. She mentioned going back to school. I told her to do it. She asked if I hated her. "No," I said, "just didn't expect you to cost me so much." She nodded. That was enough. That night, I slept with the window open, not because the weather was better, just because I finally wanted the outside air again. Truth is, revenge felt good for a minute, but rebuilding felt better. I kept the file, I kept the photos, I kept the receipts, but I didn't keep the anger. Turns out, that was the heaviest thing of all. I didn't plan on staying in Lock Creek much longer. Once I had a few months of clean work under my belt, I figured I'd sell the house, maybe head east. Tennessee, maybe the Carolinas, somewhere green, where no one knew my last name or what I'd been dragged through. But something kept me here. It wasn't loyalty, wasn't pride, it was unfinished business. Not with Wade. He was gone, and if there's a shred of justice in the world, he'll stay broke and bitter, until he dies. My unfinished business was with the town, the people who kept quiet, who looked away, who watched what happened and said nothing. Lock Creek had always liked its myths. Family men, honest work, small town values. But when push came to shove, they believed the Kincaids. They let Wade take center stage, while I got quietly pushed into the shadows. I'd never been the type to chase attention, but erasing a man, that's different. So I took a different route. I joined the town's planning board. They needed someone to review proposals for infrastructure updates. Everyone else saw it as busy work. I saw it as leverage. The first proposal I reviewed, Kincaid AgTech's request to expand their operations into the east field near the water table, said it would bring jobs, said it would boost the economy. What it would have done was poison runoff into the only clean well serving 2 nearby communities. I rejected it, not with drama, just a quiet line in the margin. Environmental risk too high. Recommend independent review. They resubmitted. Got denied again. I kept it quiet. Next came a business license application for a new front company. Guess whose name was buried in the paperwork? Travis, the same stooge, who'd been snapping photos in the back office months ago. Application denied. They appealed. I flagged the appeal for ethics review, and requested proof of operational funding. They couldn't produce it. Denied again. It wasn't revenge. It was correction, brick by brick, quietly undoing the systems they thought they'd lock down. The newspaper ran a piece about local accountability efforts. They didn't mention my name, but Carla knew. "You're cleaning up without saying a word," she told me one night over dinner. "That's rare." "I'm not trying to be a hero," I said. "Good." She smiled. "You'd be a terrible one." She was right. I wasn't chasing redemption. I was just making sure no one else got buried the way I had. Leah started school again in the fall. Community college. Business admin. I paid her first semester's tuition without saying a word. She left a note on my truck windshield. "I won't screw this up." She didn't. Winter came early that year. Nights were sharp. Frost on the windows by dusk. One night, I sat out on the porch, wrapped in a quilt from Mom's old cedar chest, sipping coffee with bourbon in it. I heard the train pass through the edge of town. Long whistle, slow clatter of steel. It used to make me feel stuck. Now it sounded like something moving forward. I thought about Elaine, my first boss, the one who taught me to read a ledger and trust no one who won't look you in the eye. She died 10 years ago, but I still remember the way she handled dirt bags in pressed shirts. Quietly, with facts. She would have been proud of the way I handled no threats, no fists, just a trail of receipts and a name too clean to ignore. I hadn't filed a single lawsuit, hadn't made a public scene, but Wade's name, it was dust now. Nobody was hiring him, nobody was returning his call. Every invoice he'd ever doctored was catalogued and cross-referenced in a file Pharaoh said was ready for the state if needed. It wasn't overkill, it was insurance. One night, Carla handed me a key. "What's this?" I asked. "To my place. You inviting me over?" "I'm inviting you in." I didn't answer, just pocketed the key. Some people might call that a happy ending, but to me, it was just a quiet sign that I'd finally come through the worst of it. I never wanted revenge that screamed. I wanted it to echo, wanted them to look around one day and realize everything they touched had turned to ash, and I never had to light a single match. That's the kind of justice you don't brag about. You just live it, day by day, with clear eyes, and a name no one can take from you again. Spring rolled into town slow that year. The air softened, but the ground stayed hard like it was still holding on to winter. I kept walking to work, like always. Same boots, same flannel, same thermos of black coffee, but nothing felt the same. Every step had weight again. Direction. One afternoon, Carla's boy Max, 9 years old, sharp kid, asked me why I never smiled in pictures. "I guess I forgot how," I said. "Wanna learn again?" he asked. I didn't answer right away, just looked at him, then nodded. Later that week, Carla took a photo of us, me and Max, under the hood of my truck, grease on both our shirts, sun behind us. She printed it and stuck it on the fridge. Every morning after that, I saw it when I grabbed milk for my coffee. And every time I smiled. That didn't erase what happened, didn't rewrite what they tried to do, but it gave all of it context. Wade had gone quiet. Rumor was he tried setting up shop in Tulsa, under a different name. That ended fast. Turns out when your past is all receipts and hard drives, it follows you wherever you go. Leah finished her first year with straight B's. She called me after finals and cried into the phone. Said she hadn't believed she could do it. I told her believing wasn't required, just doing. Greenridge kept me busy. I trained 2 new hires who reminded me of myself 10 years ago. Quiet, steady, not the type who talks to be heard. I told them the truth about this kind of work. How people think blue collar means low intelligence. How the smart ones use that to their advantage. They listened, and that was enough. One evening, I found myself back at the edge of town, standing on the dirt road that led to the old Kincaid site. Weeds had pushed through the gravel. A single light flickered above the loading bay. That place had nearly eaten me alive. I stood there for 5 minutes, then turned around and drove home. Not everything needs revisiting. A few weeks later, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. Just a money order for $3,200 and a torn piece of paper that said, "For the lawyer you never hired, Travis." I didn't cash it. Gave it to Pharaoh. He laughed. "Guilt check," he called it. "Should I be worried?" I asked. "No," he said. "He's more scared of you than the law." Good. That meant I'd done something right. On the first really warm day of May, Carla asked if I wanted to come with her and Max to the lake. Nothing fancy, just folding chairs and sandwiches and that soft buzz of small-town silence. I said yes. That afternoon, I sat in a chair with my boots off and my feet in the water, watching Max try to skip stones. Carla leaned in and asked, "Do you ever miss who you were before all this?" I thought about it. "No," I said, "but I respect the man who made it through." She nodded.
And for the first time in years I didn't feel like a man trying to outrun the past. I felt like a man who buried it, with his own two hands, quietly, permanent, and built something stronger in its place.